obviously our clients ultimately have business to deliver. So we are quite rigorous around that. But we fundamentally believe that those results are driven by the work that we put out in the world that moves people and drives those businesses. So you cannot have that in any enduring or durable way if you don't invest in creativity. And I absolutely believe that psychological safety, trust, vulnerability are key to creating cultures where people take risks, where they're not afraid to fail, where they're not so wedded to a false sense of certainty that they won't try new things. If you don't have that, you're just not going to have an innovative and creative culture. And I think there are a lot of factors in our clients' organizations, in our own organizations, that stamp that out. The speed, the need to predict where you're going and then get there. All of those things that make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons and can be, forces of good, can also be forces that really prohibit people from saying, I'm going to take a leap. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. I worked for a very long time with our chief creative officer in LA, Hanato Fernandez. And he used to always say, like, I'm so confident about my ability to come up with creative ideas that I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to try something. I'm not afraid for a client to kill an idea. Like, I'm not going to keep pushing something. If you don't like it, that's okay. I'll beat it. I got something better. You don't like that? I got something better. You don't like that? I got something better. So I think that part of it is that confidence that, you can keep coming at it. You can keep coming at it. That well is rich with ways at it. And so try a few things, try something different. But I think that as I head into this role, I actually think a defining part of the way that I will do it is focusing maybe even more on those things because I have the luxury to do so. Because Troy is leaving such a healthy business, which will obviously need to be tended to, but it allows us to almost kind of, go to our roots, if you will, look deep into what is so essential, which is that sort of freedom to be disruptive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, with regard to data and regard to risk, it's human nature to need to eliminate uncertainty, which is probably a big part of the reason why a lot of people have experienced, let's say, parents or superiors who have discouraged them from pursuing a career in the arts, for example, because creativity, by its very nature, you have to embrace the unknown. Um, that said, confidence, I think, is how you eliminate that. And the best description of confidence I heard was by a lady called Kimberly Wilson, who's a psychologist I had on the show. And she described it as the brain's ability to predict a positive outcome. And I think when you consider that with a company like TBWA, with the well-earned recognition that you guys have got, with that track record, hopefully that's heavyweight enough to encourage trust and to stimulate relationships with clients who will be willing to trust the people that are in charge, like yourself and like Troy, who can enable that. And yeah, there might be a few false starts, but that's the creative process. And hopefully, if you bring the client in on that process, then that becomes enjoyable for everyone and you all get satisfaction from that.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I don't actually understand the pitch dynamic that exists in our business. So, within advertising, if a client wants to bring on a new agency partner, they typically go through a process that we call pitching, where they kind of solicit proposals. And that usually includes, work, actual creative work, strategic work, creative work. And often it's done in a rather condensed period of time and in isolation of the client, which are pretty artificial circumstances, particularly for TBWA. We really want to collaborate and co-create with our clients. We think they are a part of the creative process. They make it better. And so, this process plays out over and over and over again, and things change hands and people make decisions. And um, I'm always curious, like, why are we putting more emphasis on the thing that happened in 4 weeks than the body of work that you have? I mean, in our case, 50 years, over 50 years of case studies of what we have done consistently. This isn't a fly by night kind of thing. This is 50 years across lots of different categories, lots of different channels, with real results. This is not a beauty contest. This is stuff that has had impact. I just don't know why that doesn't hold more weight and that we continue to do this dance that I think costs clients a lot of time and money, certainly costs agencies a lot of time and money, and really isn't, I think, the conditions to, predict a positive outcome anyways, because we all know that that's chemistry, that's humanity, that's, we'd be better to go on a series of dates than do false work for you, spec work. We'd be better to like spend the weekend together or something, and get to know each other as humans. Um, but yeah, so I think there are all sorts of odd things that we do, whether it's pre-testing, post-testing, the use of data in certain ways, these artificial pitch processes, and of course, it's all because we're trying to mitigate risk, and I think that makes sense, and I appreciate why the world works that way. But I don't know, we don't seem to learn from the fact that it doesn't actually work.
Hmm.
I had a client that we did a Super Bowl spot with, and we did not feel good about this spot. I mean, the agency, I think, was doing its best, and you get very close to something, but I think in our hearts we knew this was not it. Like this was not the spot for that stage. But we had a client who didn't quite understand what it took and what it meant to be a Super Bowl advertiser, and they tested it, and it tested well. And it, it played and it wasn't bad, but it certainly wasn't good. And, we have this ranker that comes out the morning after the Super Bowl from USA Today. And it wasn't very high on the list. And the client was like, I don't understand. It tested so well. And I was like, exactly. Because that testing is artificial. It's false. It is actually not predictive. Certainly not in that moment, which is, as much about the context and the emotion and the stage and the breakthrough than it is about message recall or branding, things that of course are important, but probably actually not as important in that moment. So, I mean, that's a very long, meandering answer to say, I don't know. I think we do a lot of things to guarantee certainty that actually do not guarantee certainty and are enemies of true innovation and creativity.